have an example here, or actually I have three examples to see how these polar coordinates, how we can graph these polar coordinates. I have the polar coordinate 2, 135 degrees, another one, -3, 3/2 pi, and then -1 and -pi4. So let's graph those three particular points using polar coordinates. So to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and draw its polar axis. 135 degrees, that's my angle that I need to find out the terminal side. 135 degrees, if there's 90, 135 degrees is roughly at that point, so that's my theta, 135 degrees. And then I need 2 units out. And I want to think about this like in a circle. So there's like that's 1 unit out from the origin, and maybe there's 2 units out from the origin. And so the point 2 would be right there. So there's the point 2 and 135 degrees. -3, 3/2 pi. Here's my polar axis. Do you remember where the angle 3/2 pi is? 3/2 pi is all the way around to there. So there's my theta. So now I have my terminal side pointed in the correct direction. Here's my origin. And then I have -3 units. So remember, when our radius is -3, rather than going in the direction of the terminal side, I'm going to go opposite that. -1, -2, and roughly -3. So there would be the point on my grid of the point -3, 3/2 pi. And then lastly, I have my radius of -1 and my angle of -pi4. The x-axis, or the horizontal line, represents my polar axis. That's how I start the degrees from. I have to go a -pi4. So if my angle or my theta is negative, I'm going backwards, or I'm going clockwise around to this point right there. So there's my terminal side. There's my theta of -pi4. And in this particular case, I'm going backwards 1 unit. So rather than going forward to 1 unit, again, if I had, radius marks all the way around the circle, I'm going backwards 1 point to right there. And so that point would be designated as my polar coordinates, -1 and -pi4.